Oh, hello. Didn't see you there. I'm Reviewing McReviewface. Join me today as we take a look at some of the unique offerings from Tamworth Distilling in New Hampshire. Thanks so much for joining me. I'm here today in my den, cozied up by a nice fire, ready to taste the first of 4 unique, different offerings from Tamworth Distilling in New Hampshire. Now, Tamworth, for those of you who aren't familiar, and probably that's a lot of you because it's a very small distillery, was started in 2015 by Stephen Grasse. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that properly, so I apologize if I'm not. You may not have heard of him, but you've definitely heard of some of his other products. So Stephen is one of the founding forces behind Hendrick's Gin, Sailor Jerry Rum, and of course then went on to start Tamworth. Now, this is a very small distillery that is doing some very experimental things. So I've managed to get a hold of 4 different offerings from the distillery. And I first want to take this opportunity to give a shout out to my sister, Lisa, and to my brother-in-law, Jai. Thank you so much for everything you did to help get these very interesting alcohols up to me here in Canada. Now, I did originally see these online and was very intrigued, so I contacted Tamworth Distilling and said, can you ship some up to me in Canada? And they said, no. No, they can't ship them up to Canada, unfortunately, due to the shipping rules in New Hampshire. Now, luckily, my sister, who lives in New York, happened to be going through the Philadelphia area where Art in the Age, a liquor store there in Philly that does carry the Tamworth products. So she was able to swing by and pick up a few bottles and managed to ship them up to me in Canada. If you're wondering how to ship alcohol to Alberta from the United States, make sure you click the video link here to show you my experiences with importing alcohol in from the United States. Now, the first in the series is, I think, the one that caught my eye the most, and so it's the one I've been the most interested to try, and that is the Eau de Musc. Now, this is a very interesting looking bottle, and it's a very interesting whiskey. So it is old world flavoring technique using the oil extract from the castors of the North American beaver. You say what? Now, so this is, contrary to popular belief, this is not the anal gland of the beaver. It is located underneath the tail, but it's not the butt. This is the castoreum that comes out of this gland, and it has been used in the past as a vanilla flavoring. Now, if you're wondering if it's still being used that way, it is, but in minute amounts. Annual industry consumption of castoreum is around 300 pounds across the entire United States. Compare that to vanillin, about 2.6 million pounds annually across the US. So beaver castoreum is not used predominantly anymore, but it is an old world way of bringing that vanilla flavor to something. So the Tamworth Distillery is located in New Hampshire, which does have its share of rugged wilderness, which is populated by all sorts of animals. One of them is a beaver. Tamworth Distillery works with a trapper named Anton Kaska, who takes the Castoreum sacs, which would otherwise be discarded, and uses them to infuse their bourbon whiskey. Enough talking, right? Let's get to the tasting. So here is the bottle. Now, this is not an inexpensive whiskey. This 200 milliliter bottle runs for about $65 USD. Keep in mind, your average can of Coca-Cola is 355 milliliters. This is a very small batch and fancy whiskey. So it's 88 proof, so 44% alcohol by volume. It also has the addition of birch oil, raspberry, and Canadian snakeroot, a woody spice akin to ginger. So not only do they have beaver in this, which is usually considered pretty Canadian, but Canadian snakeroot as well. So I think it's perfectly at home coming up here to Canada for a tasting. I think you, Mr. Beaver, need to get out of the way. Well, don't toss them in the fire. So we're going to crack open the Eau de Musc for the first time. It's a beautiful little bottle, nice wooden cork on it, and well, this has been months and months in the making. So this is a very exciting moment for me. Oh, slow. Have to be careful taking this lid out, because the last thing I want to do is spill any of this. There we go. Let's give the old cork sniff, shall we? Okay, it smells like cork. That's always what I've said. So I'm going to only pour out a little taste of this today, because again, only 200 milliliters. I don't want to waste it. So there we have Eau de Musc. Cheers. So it's softer than a typical bourbon. And there is something else there that I can't quite understand. Kind of a woody, almost cardboardy smell. Like wet cardboard, but not unpleasantly so. But it's definitely, it's got a nice nose to it. Nice golden color. Let's give it a taste. It's very nice. Not much burn to it. It's a very smooth flavor. Again, there is something almost an umami to it, but not quite. It's got a definite sweetness, but there's definitely there's something that comes right up the middle of the palate. I wouldn't say gamey. Gamey is the wrong word. But there's definitely something in the middle of the palate there that's different than you would expect. But really smooth and, again, I don't want to say full-bodied, but it definitely holds its own. It's not one of those thick, chunky whiskeys you feel like you almost have to chew. But it's also not so thin that you feel like you're just drinking colored water. What do I have to say? It does have a very nice flavor. If you're expecting it to be at all musky or stinky or over the top, it's not that. It's subtle, and there's something there you can't describe, which I think is a really nice thing. You don't want to be smacked upside the face with a beaver tail. You want something that's a bit more sophisticated, and I think this really achieves that. But it does raise the question, well, what does beaver castor smell like, and what does it taste like? Thankfully, I did manage to find this. Now this is Minnesota brand Quality Lure Beaver Castor. This I found at a sporting goods store made out of 100% beaver castor and a little bit of oil for mixing. So I thought, well, this will be a really good way to see what is it that I'm smelling and what is it that I'm tasting. And I checked, and I couldn't find online whether this was actually fit for human consumption. So we're just going to only taste a small amount. Okay, so smelling it, it's got hints of wood and leather to it. Again, I'm not getting a really animal musky smell. It's more of a highly polished. It's like if you polished an oak table with a damp leather rag. That's what I'm getting off of this. And now if I compare, I don't know that it's, again, my palate is probably not sophisticated and refined enough to tell. But I think that might be what I was describing as a wet cardboard smell, is kind of that leathery, woody smell. And it makes sense that the castor would smell like that, because this is an oil that's based on the beaver's diet of wood and leaves. So of course it's going to smell like what the beaver eats. What does it taste like? You think I'm not going to do it, don't you? A little turpentine-y. No, that's not right. That's not unpleasant. You know what it tastes like? It tastes like a cigar lounge that's never been smoked in. if that makes any sense. The combination of the leather and the wood and the rich mahogany and well-used leather and oil, it has a richness and it's a very unique flavor. Do I get vanilla out of this? Not really. Do I get sweetness? A little bit. Mostly what I get from the actual beaver castor is woodiness. I taste what the beavers have been eating. I don't really taste the vanilla. Now that may be a result of this being a lure quality beaver castor as opposed to proper food quality beaver castor, which I'm sure is what we're using here. Using it to wash it down. Again, it's just a really pleasant drink with just a hint of something. And if you didn't tell me what this was, I would say that this is just a very nice, very smooth, very easy drinking whiskey. I don't think you can really taste the castor, but it does add a little, a certain, as the French say, I don't know what. It's a curiosity I'm happy to have in my bar. It's a flavor that I have never tried before, and it's always fun to try something new, and this is definitely something that will be earning a place of honor in my bar going forward. So again, thank you so much to Lisa and Jai for their contributions towards these tastings. Stay tuned for the next tasting. Remember, this is just episode 1 of 4. We're going to be tasting 4 different offerings from Tamworth Distilling, and I can only hope they're all as good as Eau de Musc. But I'm not trying to sell you anything. I'm just enjoying a fire and some fine whiskey. Thanks so much for watching. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and click the bell icon for notifications for when the next tasting comes up. It's coming up very soon. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Reviewy Mick Reviewface, and I'll see you next review.